Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy, for your service. I think this is I don't know, 14th or 15th meeting she's chaired today. She's been really busy this morning. But wait a minute, Debbie G. What day is it?
Oh, Bill, thank you for asking. Hi, everyone. My name is Debbie G, and I am an alcoholic. And today, this very Memorial Day, is also Marvelous Monday. Welcome to the meeting, everyone. Have a great one.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, Lingy. Good to have Lingy back with us. Satish is here. Jillian is here. Well, I know the rest of you. Melissa, I know you're upset I didn't call out your name, so I'll call out your name. The rest of you are just going to have to deal. Steve, it's good to see. Well, Steve V, it's good to have you here. It's good to have everybody here. Why? Well, it just wouldn't be the same if I was talking to an empty screen. Although I do talk to empty screens a lot, come to think of it, but that's probably topic for another day. My name is Bill. I am an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is March 18, 1981. But don't let that fool you. Don't let that, Dan B, don't let that fool you. I woke up today and there I was. Still up for grabs, still capable. I mean, I still have self will. Just because I stopped drinking, I didn't lose self will. I have been able to get a lot of help the last few years. Well, 45 years, I guess. I've been able to get a lot of help, not just to stop taking that first drink, but to stop living a life of self will run riot. I have gotten a lot of help from you, the book Alcoholics Anonymous, other people like you, my sponsors, my sponsees, my friends, my fellowship, my group, my home group. I've gotten a lot of help to learn how to live with self will, free will, call it what you will, without going over the line into self will run riot. And as I said, one of the great helps I've received over the years has been from sponsorship. I got sober in Kansas City in 81. A couple of years later, Tina and I got married, moved to Arkansas. We spent a couple of years in Little Rock. Among other things, got to spend time with Joe and Charlie in the big book since those fellows are from Arkansas. Then we moved to Omaha for 4 years, met some folks like Dee and Carol who are on here today. Mike Kay is on here today. Been knowing them since 1985. They have they have helped keep me straight. Moved back to St. Louis for a couple of years. Made some amends back here where I grew up. Went back to Omaha for a couple of years. Went to Florida for about 20 years and came back to St. Louis. My point in all that is to tell you I had 7 different sponsors, including the wonderful sponsor I have today, who's also with us on the meeting. Thank you, sir. And my sponsors have helped me a lot. They've helped me read the book. They've helped me understand the book. And they've really helped me understand how to apply the book in my daily living, not just to not drink, not just to keep self-will from running riot, but actually learn how to be a pretty decent human being. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying that I'm much less of a jerk than I used to be. It really is that simple. I'm just much less of a jerk than I used to be. And what this series is, what this particular 12-step study is about, we're calling it sponsorship, working with others. It's a stewardship of hope. I do believe sponsorship is a stewardship because what's been given to me in the terms of other people sponsoring me with their experience, strength, and hope, what's been given to me, I become a steward, a caretaker, a caregiver of what I've been given so that I can try to give it back to others. And that's one of the reasons the verb in step 12 is try. It said, having had a spiritual awakening, we try to carry this message and we try to practice these principles in all our affairs. So If you look at the big book and read the very first sentence in the foreword of the first edition, it says more than 100 men and women have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Now, I'm still recovering from alcoholism today. Step 10, back on page 85, reminds me I have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. That tells me I'm still recovering because I did wake up today and there I was. I'm not free of the need for help. I am not free of the need for help. Just because I'm free of the need to drink does not mean I'm free of the need for help. So I'm still recovering from the ism, the ISM of alcoholism, the I, self, and me. And because we treat I, self, and me here, we treat self-will run riots, reason the 12 steps transfer to any other human obsession problem, such as the obsession with other people's behavior, other people's drinking. Well, we have some Al-Anon folks here today and the other 12-step program. In any event, the more than 100 men and women who gave us the 12-step recovery program, they admitted two very important things when they wrote this book. First one was we recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Way out on page 164, after taking us through the 12 steps and the working with others chapter, which we're going to reference today, as well as a chapter to wives and the family afterward, and the chapter to employers, and the wonderful prose poetry chapter of Vision for You, they get to page 164 and they make this outrageous statement in print for everybody to read forever. They say on page 164, we realize we know only a little. Don't tell anyone. I want you to think I know it all. And so today, if you read this book, you realize these were a bunch of know-it-alls. That's one reason I relate so well to Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I kind of knew I wasn't a know-it-all, but I didn't want you to know I wasn't a know-it-all. God forbid you find out I didn't know it all. And here they admit, we realize we know a little. Well, here's the truth. We still know only a little. But that doesn't mean we don't know anything. For one thing, we're no longer hopeless. We have recovered. And if you're new, or if you haven't been around discussions of the Big Book much lately, take heart from the fact that we are no longer suffering from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. We may be frustrated over many things. We may having to come to admit we're powerless over many things besides alcohol. We may be having to come to admit that other people won't always do things our way. Other people won't always see things my way. Do you know other people sometimes still disagree with me? I know it's shocking, but it's true. Not that I agree with everybody else, but that's a whole nother story. We're no longer hopeless, and we know enough. Keep in mind, the fact we realize we know only a little doesn't mean we don't know anything. We know enough to use our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, as the primary source of guidance in how to recover and stay recovering from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And we talk about sponsorship in this study, and we're taking a line here and a line there from chapter 7, working with others. And a reminder, if you have the handout for today's meeting, there's a third page called Appendix. They're just some quotes from chapter 7 that we included in the handout. If you want to use those on your own, I'm not going to go through those today. A lot of people just breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not going to go through that appendix today. I'm going to spend my time on pages 1 and 2 of the handout. However, there's some really good suggestions about not only how, but when and where, and what's the attitude to take when we're trying to help another person recover from the incurable but treatable illness of alcoholism. And what we're trying to do in this study is improve our sponsorship, improve how we work with another alcoholic, and kind of look at each step and see what the book tells us about our application in terms of sponsoring others by sharing our experience, strength, and hope with them. And I always make mention of the fact that there are those who say, well, the word sponsorship doesn't even appear in chapter 7. No, I know, but the practice does. Everything we know today about sponsorship, good, healthy sponsorship, not domination, not control, not becoming a little czar of recovery over your pigeons. Good, healthy sponsorship practice runs all the way through chapter 7. And I would suggest this to you based on my experience. And I've sponsored hundreds of men over the years. Many of them have stayed sober. Not necessarily because of me. And the ones that drank, I don't take responsibility for their drinking either. But I know two things about sponsorship for sure. Number one, it sure helped me from taking a drink and sure helped me be grateful for the recovery God has given me. And I have some sponsees on this meeting today. I've got some men on this meeting that I've sponsored for over 40 years. That amazes me. It amazes them too. And we've developed relationships. We have developed relationships based on trust, based on honesty, based on a healthy give and take. We've established really, 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 really close relationships in the midst of our disagreements. None of us agree on everything. And we learn how to live in disagreement without letting disagreement drive us apart. That's one of the beauties of long-term sponsorship. And the whole thing's a mystery. I can tell you these things have happened. I can testify to the fact that they've happened because it's been my experience. And yet, if I really sit back and try to fully define the spiritual mystery of Alcoholics Anonymous, much less the spiritual mystery of sponsorship, I come up short. We learn from this book. My poor old battered, one of my battered, duct tape enhanced, Luis. This is a duct tape enhanced big book. This is not a failing big book. This is an enhanced big book. It's just gotten tired. But it may be down, but it's not out. We learn what to do that works in sponsorship. We learn that sponsorship works without ever fully understanding how it works. I mentioned in the previous weeks in this study the little sponsorship example back in Bill's story, running from page 8 to page 13. It's a full 1/3 of Bill's story where his old drinking buddy Ebby comes to call on him. It opens with the observations on the bottom of page 8, top of page 9. The cheery voice. Now, Bill's sitting there half drunk at his kitchen table. We're told he's still in his bathrobe. Upbeat kind of fellow. And Ebby walks in. He says the cheery voice. He was sober. He was fresh-skinned and glowing. There was something in his eyes. I mean, I'm sure Bill was glad to see him, but I'm not sure Bill was ready for what happened because in the next 4 or 5 pages, he describes how Ebby shared his experience with Bill that, of course, we know from other reading, Ebby got from his time in the Oxford group, which was a Christian-centered group. In this case, it was in New York City. How to live a sober life based on spiritual principles. And of course, that was the beginning of what became Alcoholics Anonymous. You get to page 13, and Bill says, my friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator. Now, when you say that to a newcomer, Ebby had the courage to say it to Bill when he was half in the bag. But Ebby said it because it was his experience. And he was not afraid to share his experience. He was not afraid of how Bill was going to take it because he was, at that time, at that moment, on those days when he was meeting with Bill, before Bill quit drinking, Ebby was filled with the Spirit, probably didn't understand it himself. But he was able to promise to Bill when these things were done. And of course, the things he's talking about are summarized on page 13. You read page 13, you realize he's foreshadowing what would become the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is the beginning of the stewardship of hope. Ebby had been given something from some men in the Oxford group. When they said, you need to give away what you've been given, the first person Ebby thought of was his old drinking buddy, Bill W. And he had the courage, he had the spirit, he had the power, which was beyond his own power. He had the power to go make that call. Didn't know how Bill was going to receive him. Bill wasn't too excited about all of it at first, but this is how the stewardship of hope works. We try to carry the message. Watch this carefully. We try to carry the message of the spiritual awakening that has been given to us through our sponsorship in the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, as well as the fellowship and the group and the service and the rest. But our work in the 12 steps is the primary source of our spiritual awakening. What we have been given, we become responsible stewards. And we try to give it away to someone else. What they do with it, what God does with it in their life, is out of my hands. I do the best I can to share my experience, strength, and hope. I do use the book. I do believe recovery's open book. I don't think it's a test where you go in, all you have is a blank piece of paper and a pencil, and they say, don't open the book, that's cheating. No, that's not this deal. Thank you, Scott. This is open book. And so we get to step 8. Made a list. First instruction in step 8, page 59, it's summarized. Made a list of all the persons we had harmed. All, it says. We'll talk about that in a minute. What does he mean by all? And became, there's 2 parts to step 8. 2 parts to, very important. Very important to me because I kind of missed the second part for a while. I just made the list. I want to get done. I want to get out of here. I want to move on. I had in the back of my mind I was going to graduate from AA someday. Don't know where that thought came from. It might have been self-will. In any event, I know. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Became willing, implying that we may not be entirely willing going into step 8, and that's okay. The program deals with that. Now, Teresa, are you with us today?
Yes.
Would you please turn, Teresa, to page 94? Our step 8 trigger is coming out of chapter 7. On
What was that
90
again, Bill? I missed that.
Page 94. You got it?
85. Not yet. Parkinson's makes it difficult to do things. 94.
Okay, read the first 4 sentences of the chapter, outline the program of action. Or just read the whole paragraph.
Okay, Teresa Bless Alcoholic. Outline the program of action. Explain how you made a self-appraisal, how you straightened out your past, and why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to him. It is important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. Actually, he may be helping you more than you are helping him. Make it plain he is under no obligation to you, that you hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. Suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. Make it clear that he is not under pressure, that he needn't see you again if he doesn't want to. You should not be offended if he wants to call it off, for he has helped you more than you have helped him. If your talk has been sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, you have perhaps made a friend. Maybe you have disturbed him about the question of alcoholism. This is all to the good. The more hopeless he feels, the better. He will be more likely to follow your suggestions.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you, my dear. Now, there's a lot in that paragraph. There's a lot about attitude and the state of mind we carry as a sponsor. Also, a little bit about how a sponsee might feel. But as far as our step 8's concerned, let's go back near the beginning of the paragraph. Outline the program. Now, this is, by the way, the first meeting with a newcomer. In the big book, these first 7 pages of chapter 7 are the first meeting with a newcomer. So you're not afraid to talk about the program of action. And he summarizes it this way: explaining how you made a self-appraisal. Well, that is certainly 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, maybe 6. How you straightened out your past. How you straightened out your past. That's the line we're taking as our jumping off point today for step 8. And you might not be surprised to learn, and we'll come back to this paragraph next time as we continue into straightening out our past in step 9. But today we're going to prepare. Listen carefully. Step 8 is not step 9. And when you hear people in the meeting talking about, oh, how frightful step 9 is. Oh, how hard it's going to be to go to people and admit we were wrong. Oh, we are so afraid of step 9, we talk ourselves out of doing step 8. I did. Maybe you don't. So one of our jobs as a sponsor is to hold them by the hand, either literally or figuratively, and help them understand what the value is going to be of preparing for step 9 in step 8. Step 8 is not step 9. It is the preparation for step 9 based on what we've already learned about ourselves and whatever relationship we have begun to develop, not just with our sponsor, but with a power greater than ourselves, the God of our understanding, the relationship we have begun to develop with our God and our sponsor in the first 7 steps. All of this comes into play in step 8, when we make a list of everyone we ever harmed, no matter how slight it may seem at the time. Make a list, and with God's help, as we will see in a moment on page 76, with God's help, become willing to make amends to them all. And as it says, as Teresa just read to us on page 94, this is part of the program of action. And we share with them how step 8 helped us straighten out our past. Now we look at page 76. Chris S. Sanibel Chris S. You got page 76 in your book. You haven't torn it out, have you?
No, I taped it back in.
Good. Yeah, good. It's a willingness page. It's a tough page. So it says after step 7 right there in the middle of the page, now we need more action. Could you read that paragraph for us?
Sure, thank you. My name's Chris and I'm an alcoholic. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. we have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol.
Thank you, sir. Nice to have you with us on a Monday for a change. Every sentence in that paragraph is a meeting. I mean, there is a lot going on here, and I missed a lot of it because I wanted to speed read the big book. I don't know why, but every page seemed to leave me a little short. I guess it was because it wasn't the last page. I didn't know it for years, but I was just trying to get to the last page. This idea of getting done was way too heavy, and step 8 is not a getting done step. It's a moving on step. Step 8 is a moving on step. It's a willingness to move on. It's getting ready to move on. But I guarantee you, step 8 is not a getting done step. We're going to get some things done in step 8, but it's getting things done to move on to step 9. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I can't help it. And by the way, lest we forget, I put this in at the last minute, Debbie. We're going to read ahead. Not only is it open book, it's okay to read ahead. And it's okay to continue to offer the sponsee some incentive. So let's go to page 83 for just a moment. We'll come back to 76 in just a minute. Let's go to page 83 for just a moment. Because when we finish the big book discussion of step 8 and 9 on page 83, which we will complete next time, there is this sneaky little sentence. The very top of page 83. Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. We will come to find out in step 8 and step 9 that the long period of reconstruction is talking about us and our relationships. And as much progress as we make in learning how to be in a healthy relationship in step 8 and 9, not necessarily that every relationship is healthy yet in step 8 and 9, but we learn some things and we help the sponsee learn in step 8 and 9 how to behave, how to be attitude-wise, motive-wise, not just do, but how to be in a healthy relationship in step 8 and 9. And having learned these things in the first 9 steps, we lift our head and say, oh my, there's a long period of reconstruction ahead. Why? Because we're going to wake up tomorrow and there we are. And there they are. They're still there. The people I'm living with, the people I'm hanging with, the people I'm going to meetings, I'm going to work, I'm going to church, I'm going to the grocery store, I'm on the highway with them. They're still there. My reconstruction, my long period of reconstruction is going on to this day. It no longer annoys me. I recognize, as I said half an hour ago, I woke up today and there I was. I'm in my long period of reconstruction today, and it's okay to reassure the sponsee, whether they're brand new or whether they're doing this again after 20 or 30 years. It's okay for all of us to remember we are in our long period of reconstruction, and we have an opportunity and a responsibility. He says it on page 83. We have an opportunity and a responsibility to what? We must take the lead. Must. We must take the lead. Why? Because that's what's better for us. Because what we're going to learn, the bottom line in step 8 and 9, how to be responsible and accountable in relationships, no matter what the other person does. Write it down for you note takers. Step 8 and 9, simple form. How to be a responsible adult. How to be responsible and accountable in each relationship, regardless of how the other person behaves, regardless of what the other person does. In my experience, and this is my experience, yours may be different, other people's may be different, but I got to share my experience, strength, and hope. Otherwise, I'm making it up. In my experience, the sponsor stewardship of hope role in step 8 has 3 parts. First, we encourage the sponsee to take responsibility for their harms done to others. We're going to talk about where that practice actually began, because that practice does not wait until page 76 to begin. That practice of taking responsibility for the harms we did to others begins way back in steps 3 and 4. We're going to look at that in a little bit. Second, and by the way, this may sound obvious, or this may sound like a shrug, or this may sound like a piece of cake to some of you. And I can only speak from my own experience, and pretty much every man I've ever sponsored. I don't know very many people come into Alcoholics Anonymous or any other healthy 12-step recovery program full of joy at taking responsibility for being wrong. I just don't know many people who came in and said, oh, good, I finally get to talk to some people about the harm I've done to others. Oh, I just can't wait to get this off my chest. Oh, I can't wait for someone to make me accountable. Now, that may sound sarcastic, but it's not. I just haven't met anybody who came in here with that attitude. And as a sponsor, I have to remember, no matter how hip, slick, and cool, no matter how much together he or she looks when they come in the door, when they start coming to the meeting, when they sit down next to me and say, can you help me understand step 8? I pretty well got it, but I just need a little touch up around the edges, you know. But in newcomer, that means I don't know squat. That's Tina has a phrase. She says you got to have the decoder ring. Remember, you used to get the decoder ring in the cereal box? Yeah, you got to have a decoder ring. Assume people don't know how to take responsibility for making a mistake. Assume we don't know how to take responsibility for being wrong. Assume we don't know how to take responsibility for harming somebody else. Step 8, based on all the help we've gotten in the first 7 steps, step 8 is going to teach us how to do that. In my experience, encouraging the sponsee that it's okay, that it's going to be safe. They're going to live through it. They're not going to become isolated. They're not going to lose every friend they ever had. They're not going to become a pariah or an outcast to the family. Whatever their fears are and whatever pride is keeping them from moving forward in this, encourage the sponsee to take responsibility for the harms done to others. Second, given that getting over that first hurdle, we help them make the list. I used to send them away and say, make a list of everybody you harmed and come back to me when you finish making the list. I now kind of help them at least get started. Well, I don't know if I harmed anybody or not. Did you have a father? Well, yeah. Put his name down. Well, I don't know what I did. That's okay. We don't have, just put down your dad. Did you have a, thank you, Chris in Abita Springs. You're getting it, baby. Did you have a mother? Put her name down. Did you have brothers or did you have a boss? Have you ever been arrested? once people start writing down the name of pretty near everybody they ever knew, they're going to start to get a clue that making a list of everybody I ever harmed may be every relationship I was ever in, because I probably did something to harm somebody, whether I knew it or not. Just help them make a thorough list, no matter how trivial or forgettable the sponsee thinks it is. And I need to explain why I believe that. In my mind, I will already pre-edit my list. Now, maybe you don't do that, but and I don't know I'm pre-editing, but I'm already leaving certain names off the list, unconsciously afraid if I don't get them on the list, my sponsor won't know about it. If my sponsor don't know about it, I'll never have to do a step 9, because the very thought of going back and talking to her is beyond belief. I've told you before, those of you that have been on the workshops before, you heard me talk about Janet. In the 2nd grade, she was on my resentment list, and I had to have her on my step 8 list, no matter how trivial it seems, because of this. It may be trivial, and when I'm 39, 40, 45 years old, I'm not really carrying a resentment toward Janet of any consequence anymore, and I don't really even remember if I harmed her. I was probably kind of mean to her because her dad moved out of town and took his job out of town and took her with him. What are you, 8 years old in the 2nd grade? I'm almost over it. She left, first woman to leave me. Wouldn't be the last, but the first. And I'm sure I said some unkind things. I'm sure I hurt her feelings. 2nd grade. But here's the point. Why are we doing step 8? To get ready to do step 9. Why are we doing step 8 and 9? Well, but they have something to do with the spiritual awakening. Keep in mind, step 8 and 9 are not standalone. They each have a contribution to make my spiritual awakening. We're going to see in just a moment. Part of the most powerful miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous is in doing step 8 and 9, I get rid of some more stuff that's blocking me from God's care. In doing step 8 and 9, I get rid of some more stuff in me that's blocking me, in addition to the resentments, fears, and anger and inconsideration we dealt with in 4, 5, and 6, and became willing to let go and let God have in step 7. We move further down that free me of the bondage of self, relieve me of the bondage of self in step 8 and 9 by getting rid of more of our guilt, regret, remorse, shame, fear, and pride. And we don't know. None of us knows which name on that step 8 list may be the one responsible for unconscious, deep-seated feelings of guilt, regret, remorse, shame, fear, and pride that really have very little to do with the significance of the harm done. But somehow we've taken them, used them to build that wall that blocks us from God's care. Remember what page 164 says? We realize we know only a little. We don't know for sure which of the harms we did, because of the wrong actions we took with others, we don't know for sure which ones are blocking us the most from the help we asked for from God way back in step 3. I'm in favor of making as thorough a list in step 8 as you possibly can, which really may mean every person you ever had a relationship with. And then when we look at what the harm was, what the wrong done that caused the harm, then maybe we can refine it. And by the time we get to step 9, we're not going to make some of these anyway, because step 9 says, except when to do so would injure them or others. But in the making of the list, I am strongly of the opinion, based on my experience, we assist the sponsee in making a thorough list of everyone ever harmed, no matter how trivial or forgettable the sponsee thinks it is, because we simply don't know for sure what in us is blocking us from God's help. And third, as Chris read at the bottom of page 76, we pray. If we haven't the willingness to do this, we pray until it comes. There's no harm in praying with the sponsee, at least in the beginning. God grant me the willingness to take responsibility for the wrong I did and the harm I caused in this person's life. Amen. For every name on the list. Because we're trying to remove the debris in us, not the debris in the relationship, the debris in us that's blocking us from God's helping care. So the sponsor helps the sponsee, quote unquote, straighten out their past, gaining more relief from the bondage of self, sweeping away the debris that comes from a life run on self-will, run riot. And we start this magic mystery of somehow guilt, regret, remorse, shame, fear, and pride start to melt away. And so I want to talk about three things. He says in the reading, we have a list of all persons we have harmed. We made it whenever we took inventory. The sponsor encourages the sponsee to follow the suggestions in the book. Take responsibility for the harms done to others, beginning with a list of harms done. Make a list of all the names. I do this just like the resentment inventory. Just make a list of all the names. When they think they've exhausted their memory of every name of every person they ever harmed, then we help them do column 2. I was wrong when I believe a simple sentence at the top of column 2, I was wrong when I. Complete that sentence for every person in column 1, and then column 2, what did I do that was wrong? I was wrong when I disobeyed my father, insulted my father, and so on and so forth. It said way back on page 13 in Bill's story, that same page we were talking about earlier with Ebby. We made a list of people I had hurt. This is on page 13, way back in the beginning of the book. We made a list of people I had hurt. Willingness to admitting my wrong. You got step 8 foreshadowed in Bill's story. Page 62. As we're preparing to take step 3 prayer, page 62, which is the masterpiece of the description of self-will run riot. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. There's a fertile field for step 8. I think back of all the people whose toes I stepped on, not just because I was a bad dancer. I became a pretty good dancer, but it took a lot of time and a lot of hurt female toes. Look at page 67. Resentment inventory. We admitted our wrongs honestly. I'm not making this up. It's on page 67 in the resentment inventory. We admitted our wrongs honestly and became willing to set these matters straight. Step 8 and 9 hinted at in the resentment inventory. Page 67, beginning of the fear inventory. Fear brought us misfortune. We ourselves set the ball rolling. There's a hint that because of our fear motives, we've done things to harm other people without even thinking it or meaning it. Page 69. Debbie G., do you feel like reading today?
Of course I do.
This really cracks me up. This is in the sexual conduct inventory,
Okay.
middle of page 69.
Okay.
Well, actually, below that, the bottom paragraph on 69, whatever our ideal turns out to be. Keep in mind, we've been praying to God for help for a while now. Read that bottom paragraph on 69.
Okie dokie. Hi, Debbie, alcoholic. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it.
Thank you so much. He says we must be willing to make amends where we have done harm. Way back here in step 4. And then, of course, on page 70, we have listed the people we have hurt. We're willing to straighten out the past. So help the sponsee understand that step 8 doesn't get sprung on us as a big surprise right after step 7. If we've been carefully paying attention to the book, becoming responsible for the wrongs we did, taking responsibility for the harm those wrongs caused others, has been built into the program ever since step 3. On the handout, we got a few examples list. Column 1, people we harmed. I got dad, mom, wife. Janet in the 2nd grade, I included her. So those of you that get a kick out of poor old Janet, and my many bosses. Column 2, I was wrong when I insulted, vanished, disappeared without a trace, cheated, blamed, lied to, whatever the case may be. The fewer words, the better. And then I think there should be a column 3. Am I willing? And this is where the prayer comes in. This is where the second half of step 8 comes in. And I used to just pray over the whole list. Am I willing to make amends to all these people? Kind of a catch-all one-time big tent prayer. I found that very ineffective. I can tell myself, yeah, I'm willing. And Gil, my evil twin, is always whispering in the background, except for this one. Except for this one. Ooh, except for, I'm never going to go talk to her again. Except for that one. Now, you can argue, well, she'll never know. She'll never know I was or wasn't going to come to talk to her in the first place. No, but what amount of guilt, pride, fear, regret, remorse, shame is hooked on that name down deep inside me, blocking help from God that I really do need. So I believe column 3 is a willingness column for each name. Am I willing to make amends to my dad for the insults and shame, grief that I brought him? Yes or no? I used to say maybe on that column. I no longer do that. I don't even do no. I'm either yes or I'm praying. If I believe page 76, and I do today, and I hope to help you believe it today, if you don't already, when Chris read on the bottom of page 76 a little bit ago, if we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. If you don't believe it, go back to page 44. To be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on spiritual principles. This is serious. We do not know what's blocking us from God's help. We know some of it. We realize we know only a little. So I don't put no on the column anymore. I say, are you either praying, you're willing, or you're praying? You're either willing or you're praying for willingness. To me, there is no door 3 anymore on column 3 in step 8. The page 76 said, sweep away the debris which is accumulated year after year. I'm 2 years old. I'm still an only child. I'm 3 years old. I'm still an only child, the center of the universe. I'm 3.5 years old. My little brother's born. I'm no longer the center. Now, I didn't know any of this then, but I look back. When my little brother was less than a year old, he's in his little stroller, and I push him down the basement steps. Boom, 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 boom. There goes Bob. I don't know if that was an accident or if I did it on purpose, but I put him on one of my step 8 lists because I realized whether I meant to or not. Boom, 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 going to, now he lived. He didn't even get hurt. He didn't even fall out of the stroller, but that probably was harmful. And I had to take responsibility for that. Whether I meant to, you don't analyze your motives at this point. Was it wrong to push him down the steps? Yes. So I'm 3.5 years old. I'm older than that today. I was older than that when I did my first, second, third, fourth, fifth inventories. That phrase, sweep away the debris which is accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If you don't understand it yet, let me translate the words live on self-will and run the show ourselves. Here's what that means to me. Have my own way. Get my own way. Get you out of my way. That makes sense? That's what it means. There's no beating around the bush here. Accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If you still don't believe it, reread page 62, Lord have mercy. And then he's got this cute little, if we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. How many people came in here with the will, the willingness? Oh, yeah. I was wrong when I did this, that, and the other to everybody I've ever known, and I'm willing to make amends. Can't wait for step 9. Now, if that's you, my hat's off to you. God bless you. And you should be doing this workshop, not me. So speak up and we'll let you do it next time. Meanwhile, how we doing, Ian? You okay? Okay, you looked a little nervous. I was worried.